Yo, what's up, guys? We're back, and this week it's for a really good card, actually. It's a Fight Night card. It's not quite that UFC pay-per-view card that we had last week, but there's a lot of intriguing fights on this card, and pretty excited to break it down. And just right before I get started, I want to give a little bit of an update for the contest that I ran last week, where I was going to give the free $25 bet or $25 to the person that predicted the round and the way that the finish would happen for the main event last week. And man, I mean, what do you guys think of that main event? First of all, that was probably one of the best, if not the best, heavyweight or light heavyweight title fight in UFC history. Might be, one of my favorite fights that I've seen in a long time, man. And that did snap the 5-week winning streak that we had on the channel, giving our free bet of the week or free play of the week, because I did go with Glover Teixeira. And man, I mean, 32 seconds away from getting that one correct. And it's crazy that literally there was quite a few people that put comments, and just the way that it ended was just almost impossible to call. I mean, no one even had Jury winning in round five. I believe one person did have him in round four, but no one had him winning in round five, and no one had Jury by submission either. I don't think maybe anyone in the world thought that Jury was going to win by submission in the fifth round, but hey, that's what happened. And Glover was really close to defending his title. I really feel bad for Glover because he's like 42 years old. Obviously, it's not like he's going to get many more of these opportunities to make big time money. And he just, unless they give him that rematch, which I'm not sure they're going to give him, I think he deserves it. But yeah, he just lost himself quite a bit of money if he wants to continue to fight or do a non-title fight for his next bout. But yeah, I'm just going to continue that over. So once again, let's get this video to 200 likes. And then for the main event for Calvin Kattar versus Josh Emmett, tell me who you think's going to win, how you think they're going to win, and what round. And the person that is the closest, or the person that predicts correctly, is going to be the one that wins the $25. So yeah, just put the exact time in the round that you think the fight is going to get stopped, who you think's going to win, and how they're going to win. And if you are the closest and you are in the correct round with the correct finish, then you will win the $25 bet from Westgate Sportsbook, or you will win just the $25, whichever way you want to get it. But just right before we get into this video and break down all these fights, I just want to give a big shout out to the sponsor for this video, which is CashflowMMA.com. And man, the good times just keep rolling for them. If you go to Cashflow MMA right now and you become a member, you're going to be definitely having some fun, because they've won 5 weeks in a row. They've been on fire with their bets, and you could just see the bet they had last week with this parlay with Jack Della Maddalena, who won really easily, and then the fight doesn't go to decision in the main event. That was a little bit of a sweat, but they got plus 100 odds, and they were able to hit that bet once again. So like I said before, they've gotten 5 consecutive winning weeks in a row. So if you check out cashflowmma.com, you're more than likely gonna put some money in your pocket. So I would go over there, I would check them out, I would get their bets for this week and see if you can make some money, because they've really been helping a lot of people out. So check out cashflowmma.com. Really recommend them as great bettors in this space. And then also, if you wanted to get my picks for other organizations this week, CSMA, they got KSW this week. We have a PFL this week. So there's quite a bit happening outside of the UFC. And I obviously do have some bets for UFC as well already on the Patreon. But we've won 7 weeks in a row. We're over 65 units profit for the year. So we've been doing it extremely well this year on the Patreon, on the bets, everything like that. So really appreciate everyone that's been over there, rocking with me on the Patreon and supporting the channel. And hopefully you guys been getting your money's worth, and you want to go over there and, join the party and be part of the winning thing we got going on right now. I definitely would recommend it. So patreon.com/MMA Prediction Guru for all of that. But yeah, let's get into this first fight of the night here. We got Phil Hawes. He's going to be taking on Duron Nguyen. And I'm not really a big fan of this fight. They've tried to reschedule it a couple times, and Phil Hawes actually was going to fight Duron Nguyen the same date that Chris Curtis. Remember, Chris Curtis actually accepted the fight like very short notice, and then Phil Hawes declined that short notice match and said, if I'm going to fight Chris Curtis, I'm going to need some time. And they ended up fighting like a few weeks later, and Chris Curtis still ended up getting the knockout. So yeah, that was supposed to be Duron Nguyen, though, who was going to fight him on that original date. And they just ended up setting it back up. And Phil Hawes before that was 3-0 in the UFC, and he was a heavy favorite against Chris Curtis. So someone like Phil Hawes, I do kind of question a little bit his headspace. Sometimes I feel like he could be mentally weak, and coming off a knockout loss to a guy that is a lower weight class than you, a guy that you thought you definitely were going to be able to beat, maybe that could put some mental demons in Phil Hawes' head. So I'm not even as confident as I would have been if they would have fought originally. And even then I wasn't extremely confident. You know, Phil Hawes, he loses to Nguyen, who's not really looked at highly by the fans. That's going to be a huge stock drop for him. If he can win, you know, he's going to have wins over Duron Nguyen, Kyle Daukaus, Imavov, Jacob Malkoun, all pretty good fighters, and probably be able to get top 10, top 15 opponent relatively soon. But a loss, I think he's going to go all the way down to the bottom of that totem pole. And Duron Nguyen, he really hasn't lived up to the hype. He entered the UFC with a very impressive amateur wrestling pedigree. Obviously, he had that friendship with Daniel Cormier, and people tout him as the middleweight DC because he's really short. They had that similar build, but Nguyen has only gone 2-2 in his first 4 UFC fights. He's had a lot of issues with making weight, pulling out of fights, getting injured. And he had 2 different dates to fight Phil Hawes in 2021, one in July and one in October. And Nguyen pulled out of both of those fights. So hopefully this time, you know, the fight could actually go down and they could get in the cage and see what happens. But, you know, this isn't a fight that I'm really targeting in terms of betting or really have a, you know, super read on. I think that Phil Hawes is favorite for a reason, but maybe the line could be a little bit closer. Phil Hawes is obviously significantly bigger. That's going to be, you know, the same every time Duron Nguyen goes in there. He's 5'6". He's going to be fighting at middleweight. You know, it's never really going to line up great for him, I don't think. And another thing is he hasn't really been able to make that middleweight limit recently. So coming back down there, I think his last fight, they fought at a catchweight. So that's going to be something that you're going to have to monitor, see if he can make that weight and look good doing it. But, you know, the reason why I'm kind of not really confident in Phil Hawes winning this fight is, one, you know, on the feet, the guy is the better striker. He can keep it long. He throws those front kicks. He's getting better with his 1-2s. He likes to pressure. He obviously has big power. But, you know, I've never really seen him strike over 3 rounds and win a fight that way. He does have a questionable chin. And Duron Nguyen does, even though, you know, Duron Nguyen striking is really just a lot of, you know, looping overhands and big shots to try to create chaos to get that takedown. I still believe that he, you know, maybe is a little bit more durable than Phil Hawes. And if he can crack Phil Hawes clean, I'm not even confident Phil Hawes could take a shot from a guy like Duron Nguyen. So that makes me real nervous when I don't really feel like Phil Hawes is going to have that edge in the wrestling. You know, Phil Hawes is going up against a guy that, you know, was in there with some of the best wrestlers in the United States, trying to make the Olympic team, that was able to get some really, really high level wins over some of the best wrestlers in the world. So I feel like he's a different level of wrestler in comparison to Phil Hawes. And if Phil Hawes tries to go that route where they're just grinding against the cage, I think Duron Nguyen might end up getting the better of that. And cardio wise, both these guys do kind of tend to slow down and gas out. So, you know, it's just kind of, I don't think anyone's going to have a big edge there. If anything, I do think Phil Hawes might have a slight cardio edge, and he definitely has fought tougher opponents, fought a lot more. So he does have an edge in that, you know, because of that. But one thing about Duron Nguyen, even if he does win some of these grappling situations, like get some takedowns, get some clinch control time, he isn't really dangerous on top. He doesn't have great top control. And I'm just going to go with Phil Hawes because I think that he's probably going to land the bigger shots on the feet with his reach advantage. He probably has a little bit of a speed advantage. He's a little bit sharper. And maybe he'll, you know, land the better shots. I don't necessarily see him knocking Duron Nguyen out or anything. So that's why I'm really not super confident. I think, you know, Duron Nguyen is the guy that if I were to bet on it, I probably would go dog or pass. But I'm going to pick Phil Hawes to win a decision in this one. And in the second fight of the night here, we got another middleweight fight. We got Kyle Daukaus. He's going to be taking on Roman Dolidze. And this is a fight that's going to come down to game plan for both fighters. Both guys have shown poor fight IQ in certain fights, if you ask me. Roman Dolidze, he falls in love with the striking sometimes. In other fights, he's made really silly decisions on the ground, like dropping back for leg locks against rocked opponents. And Kyle Daukaus, he's had fights where I think he had a lot of success on the outside using his hands, boxing, but he forces the clinch and tries to get takedowns, which ended up losing him a couple fights, like when he fought Brendan Allen and Phil Hawes. And this fight's a bit weird because I think Roman Dolidze is more comfortable on the feet, exchanging, staying at range than Kyle Daukaus. But Daukaus in this fight, I think, needs to keep it standing at least early. I think he has a speed advantage. He could get off with the jab, with the 3-2. He throws fast combinations. He has pretty fast hands. Dolidze tends to throw more one at a time, and I don't think he can compete with the output. Daukaus also has pretty good front kicks, round kicks. I would try to attack the body, attack the legs, and wear on that lower half of Dolidze. And just keep the distance and try to, use your range. He's going to be similar size to Dolidze, but I think he's a little bit better at striking from the outside. Dolidze, he's a guy that likes to switch stances on the feet. He'll slip and rip with hooks, with overhands. He'll throw some kicks, but he lacks the speed to be really effective, especially at 185. He does have power, so I think that obviously Daukaus has to be a little bit careful. And I have seen him throw up those high kicks and, get people out of there. So obviously he has some dangerous things about him, but I don't necessarily think at 185, especially his striking is going to be the best. And Dolidze needs to use his wrestling. He's the bigger man, and I think if he can use his double leg, get on top, then he can control Daukaus and maybe get him tired. Daukaus needs to worry about control in this fight when he gets on top, or Dolidze, when he gets on top rather than attacking submissions. And if he does that, I think he has the chance to get the upset because Kyle Daukaus, you go back and watch the fight against Phil Hawes, he did gas out in that third round and got held down. And obviously, Daukaus is a grappler as well. He likes to work fighters, gets a cage in the clinch. He has good control with the underhooks. He has good takedowns there. On top, he has good front chokes, rear naked chokes. Both these fighters have gassed in fights that I've watched, but I would say overall, Kyle Daukaus can probably push a little harder. In Dolidze's last fight, he had a game plan I think could be successful against Daukaus. I just don't know if he'll be able to control as effectively. And if he can't and he gets tired, then the fight could turn. I kind of think this is closer to a pick'em fight than where the lines are now. But, Roman could grind it out or, lands the bigger shots on the feet. But I'm going to go with Daukaus because I think he's going to make Dolidze work to hold him down, get him tired. I think he's going to have some clinch work that is going to be effective. I think he's going to land the better strikes at range. And, I think that Daukaus is going to be able to get it done here. So I'm going to go with Kyle Daukaus to pick up a decision victory. I do think this fight is going to go over. And this next one, I'm not going to spend a ton of time on it. I think that there's one guy that is a big favorite for a reason, and that's Cody Stamann. I don't really think that Eddie Wineland has the chin anymore to be in the UFC. He took that brutal knockout against Sean O'Malley, and then he was looking decent against John Castaneda, but he took a big shot. He couldn't recover and ended up getting finished. So I really do question Eddie Wineland's chin. He's almost 38 years old, and for the last 5-6 years almost, he's been fighting one time a year, kind of, I believe, just comes in and he has fun with it, gets a paycheck, and the rest of the year he's being at his fireman job and kind of doing that. So he's a legend. Obviously, he was the WEC champ. He fought for the UFC belt, but just at this point in time, I don't necessarily see him as a super viable fighter. And Cody Stamann, obviously, at one point he was seen as much higher level in the weight division. Now he's lost 3 fights in a row, kind of trying to work his way back into it. His last loss was really bad too because he was known, and obviously I still think is known. I don't think this is going to change it just because of one fight, but to be super tough, durable, really hard to finish. And Sinner Magomedov was able to hurt him early and take him out. So that had to hurt the ego of Cody Stamann, and I'm sure he wants to get that bad taste out of his mouth right away because you look at his 2 losses prior to that. I mean, the loss to Merab Dvalishvili was pretty competitive. He actually had Merab rocked a few times and did well to defend quite a few takedowns in that fight. And with other judges, maybe even Cody Stamann could have got the nod there. But his last fight was really the first one where he just got absolutely dominated, wasn't really competitive. Jimmy Rivera, even though he got crushed in that fight a little bit too, at least it went to decision and he had some moments. This fight he got taken out of there early, but I think this is a good get back fight for him. I think that Obviously, Eddie Wineland is dangerous. He's big for the weight class. He has a long reach, and he has that really weird movement. He throws with power, and when he wins, it's usually by knockout. So he's going to be hunting for that knockout to the head. Cody, he got hurt to the body his last fight. I still think he's super durable to the head, and I don't necessarily think that Eddie's going to be able to land that kill shot. And I feel the wrestling of Cody is going to have Eddie a little bit hesitant to throw punches, as well as him being knocked out recently. I think Cody's going to be more aggressive, more confident facing a guy that he kind of sees as on the way out. And even though Cody Stamann's not necessarily known for getting finishes or having power, I'm actually going to go with Cody Stamann by first round knockout in this one. I think that he's just going to be able to touch with Eddie with something, and I don't think Eddie can take damage very well anymore. So going to go with Cody Stamann here, first round TKO to get back on track. And now we got the little guys in here. We got two featherweights. We got Danny Chavez taking on Ricardo Hamos. And with Hamos, he's big for the weight class. Even though he fought at 135 pounds, I still think it looks like he cuts a lot of weight to make 145. And against fast fighters with good movement, who can touch, move on the outside, that's a style that he has issues with, because Ramos, he looks to throw a lot of heavy leg kicks. He invests in them. And against Danny Chavez, who struggled defending leg kicks, it's a smart thing to do, but he doesn't set his low kicks up the best. They don't come super fast. His hands aren't that great. He does have a pretty good jab. His overhand is all right, but he doesn't throw very many combinations. He is a little bit sloppy with his boxing. Defense, I don't think, is necessarily elite. In the pocket, he just kind of relies on throwing that left hook to back opponents up. We saw Zubair Tukhugov, who didn't have the takedown threat or the fear of the takedown from Hamos, just walk him down, have a lot of success pressuring him, keeping him on the back foot, going in and out with strikes, landing the jab on Hamos. Hamos, he does have good kicks, good front kicks, round kicks, high kicks, and when he lands, he throws with power. He will throw those spinning elbows. So he has some dangerous weapons, but I don't rate him as that great of a striker. His durability is a little bit questionable. He's been rocked. He's been hurt to the head and finished to the head, finished to the body. Holds his hands low. I don't think his head movement is the greatest. So he does have 3 knockout finishes. So he has all right power. Really, he's a grappler, though. He's improved his wrestling. He's become more active with it. He's a black belt in jiu-jitsu. He's always looked to hunt the back or get the front choke. He doesn't really have the best top control, but he is dangerous in those scrambles. And opponents always have to be very careful of him taking the back or getting in a dominant position. I have seen guys, get out of his back mount, though. It doesn't seem like he is the greatest with this control from there, but he is good in fights that go to decision. He's kind of a good point fighter. He has good cardio, and he can mix it up and do enough to get the win. We saw him, even though he couldn't hold down a guy like Bill Algeo, get multiple takedowns to get the win in that one. And he is 8-1 in fights that have gone to decision. He's at his best when he can mix it up. He's just striking and get the takedowns, either get the submission or just get fighters thinking on the feet that he's going to take him down and then open up a little bit. And he is 26. He's that team alpha male. And if he can continue to improve his wrestling, his entries, set up his strikes a little bit better, he could become a real potent fighter. And Danny Chavez, his big advantage in this fight is his speed. He's going to have to be way more aggressive in this fight if he wants a chance to win, though. He's very fast. He has good reflexes. He fights on the counter. Getting older at 35 years old, it is hard to sustain that style. But Chavez has good leg kicks. When fighters close the distance, he tries to snipe with that rear cross. And he has fast hands, good power. But he's flat-footed. He stands right in front of opponents. He has very little movement. He always is waiting for fighters to close the gap so he can counter. And I've seen opponents kind of get the beat on him recently. They have just chopped at his legs, stayed on the outside, gotten ahead by pointing him. And leg kicks have been a weapon for Chavez, but they've also proven to be effective against him. Both Jared Gordon and Kai Kamaka really damaged Chavez's leg. And in this fight, he has to be more aggressive. He has to go first with the jab. He has to throw more hands. If he just stays on the outside and lets Ramos leg kick him, get his timing, I don't think he's going to have a good night. He is a black belt in jiu-jitsu, but in MMA, he's primarily a defensive wrestler, grappler. He doesn't really look for takedowns. He does have pretty good initial takedown defense, but if fighters can chain wrestle, they usually can get him to the ground. And off his back early, he has good get-ups when he's fresh, but If he continues to get taken down, he'll start to accept bottom position. He doesn't really have a big threat of a submission off his back. And his cardio is not great either. He does tend to slow down. I think Chavez has an outside chance of landing a big counter, but the way he fights, I doubt he'll win. He's going to be stationary. And even though he has the speed edge on Hamos, he's going to be pretty easy to hit himself, especially with the reach advantage that Hamos has. Hamos will probably be able to get his range with the kicks early when Chavez starts to get more desperate and aggressive because he's behind on the scorecards. Then Hamos can start to pull him into counters, get takedowns, and I think he has the better cardio. He fights smarter in the cage. He uses his weapons more. He's more active. And, I was thinking the line was a little bit off. I still think Hamos is maybe too big of a favorite, but I think he's going to get the job done here. So I'm going to go with the card of Hamos to get this win by decision. And now we got our first of our two female fights on the card here with Gloria to Paula taking on Maria Oliveira. And Maria Oliveira, I wasn't really impressed with her too much. She's a Muay Thai striker on the feet. She tries to, come forward, pressure. She has improved her footwork a little bit, but she's still pretty flat-footed. I will say she's a good athlete. She has a 69-inch reach. She is a low volume. She doesn't really commit to many of her strikes. She doesn't want to get taken down. I do think in the fight with Paula, she's probably going to be more free-flowing on the feet because obviously at her last fight with Tabitha Ricci was only just trying to get her to the ground. And she likes to come forward behind the jab. She'll go to the body with it. Her right hand is really wild. I mean, sometimes she'll throw it straight and throw the 1-2, but usually her right hand comes really wide and sloppy. She does have decent hand speed, and Oliveira will throw some kicks as well. But defensively, she doesn't move her head. She has very little feint. She doesn't really cut the cage off very well. I've seen her really struggle against girls with good lateral footwork. She has flash power with 7 wins by knockout, but a lot of her wins that she's gotten finishes in have came against 0-0 opponents or opponents with really bad records. So hard to read too much into that. And Oliveira, I think she's going to try to probably wrestle in this fight. I don't trust her to be able to get the takedowns against someone the level of DePaula, though, because, I did see her get some takedowns in a recent regional scene fight and control on top, but the person that she beat was 0-1 that she did that to. And, her entries and just the way that she was getting the takedowns didn't look that effective. But her takedown defense has been an issue. She was able to stuff some takedowns against Ricci, but she ended up getting tired and then controlled in the later rounds. And I've seen her other fights. I've seen her get submitted a couple times, get grinded out on the mat, and she's been finished on the ground in 3 of her losses. I think this is going to be a stand-up fight with Paula, though, with Oliveira maybe even trying to get it to the ground herself. Gloria to Paula, she has real good footwork, speed. She turns into that shootbox Diego Lima team. I think hands-wise, DePaula throws fast 1-2s. She has a real nice jab. She'll rip the body. And in the pocket, she has power, short hooks. I think she's going to give a lot of issues to Maria on the feet. I don't think Oliveira is going to be able to get inside. And I think that she's going to get pieced up. I don't see her being effective with her clinch game, with her takedowns. And yeah, I just think Gloria DePaula is the better fighter. She's superior. If Oliveira can out-grapple her, then that's going to show a big, huge deficiency in DePaula's game, and she is at UFC level. So I think that she's going to be able to get the job done. She looked improved against Diana Belbita, and I think she'll look improved again here. So give me Gloria DePaula to get a victory. And this is the second of our 2 female fights on the card here with Jasmine Jasudavicius. She's going to be taking on Talia Silva. And for Jasmine Jasudavicius, she had a really good UFC debut. She got an upset victory over Kay Hansen in January. She's won 3 fights in a row, 7 of her 8 pro fights. Her 1 pro loss was a split decision, so arguably she could be undefeated, and she is very confident right now. She is tenacious. She's tall. She's long, lanky. Pretty good grappling skills. Stand-up wise, she's durable. She pressures forward. She likes to throw 1-2s. Her clinch game is all right, but I definitely give the stand-up edge to Silva. Jasudavicius is slow. She's plotty. She can get hit. Fighters can stick and move on her. Kicks have given her a lot of issues. And Silva is going to have a big speed advantage. I think she's going to, be able to stick and move on Jasudavicius as long as she has the gas tank. And Jasudavicius is going to have to be ready to eat shots, close the distance, and make it an ugly fight. And she's a good grappler, Jasudavicius. She's strong in the clinch. She has nice knees, elbows. And I think she's going to need to live in that clinch in this fight. She has to close the gap, make it ugly. Her takedowns in the clinch are pretty good, decent double. And once she gets Silva tired, then maybe she could try to take her down and control her. I think early on when Silva's fresh, there is a big submission threat there. I think it would be smarter to just maul in the clinch against the cage. But once she gets her a little bit tired, that she probably can control on top a little bit more effectively, not have as big of a chance of getting submitted. And Javicius has excellent cardio. I think that she has an advantage there. For Natalia Silva, she got signed by the UFC in 2021. She had a fight scheduled against Victoria Leonardo, but suffered an injury, and now she's just getting back in there. She hasn't fought for quite a while. She didn't fight for over a year prior to the UFC call. So it's going to be over 2.5 years since the last time Silva fought. This is going to be the first fight for her in the United States. So she has a lot to overcome, get acclimated to during fight week and on fight night, but we're going to see if she can do it. And I like Natalia Silva. I mean, the chick has a lot of potential. She's young. She is still 25 years old. She's proven to be dangerous in all areas. Her kicks are good at range. She can hit body lock takedowns. She can get submissions from top position. She has pretty good submissions off her back. On the feet, Silva's very aggressive. She's fast. She can move well. She switches stances. She throws some nice kicks. She throws a different array of kicks. She mainly likes to throw the rear leg, body, or head kicks, and then she'll switch stances and use lead leg side kicks. She doesn't have the best boxing or hands, but she's fast. And when a fighter's moving a range, she'll close the distance and she'll try to create a brawl with her straight shots. She throws heat, so she has some power. And she can kind of spook girls from wanting to get in the pocket with her because she's just so willing to throw down. One thing that Silva's going to have to do better in this fight is dealing with the length. If you go back and watch Silva's fight with Marina Rodriguez, she struggled with the range a little bit. She was trying to use kicks, and when fighters close the distance, she lets the straight punches off. But in the Rodriguez fight, she was coming up short with a lot of her kicks. She was getting backed up, touched up, and she had a couple of moments where she got a combination or two off on Rodriguez, but she was mainly on the back foot eating shots. And as the fight went on, she gassed out and resorted to kind of pulling guard, and it looked ugly for her. So that was a while back, and obviously Rodriguez is on a different level. But, you know, she was able to take big shots from Silva, eat them, keep walking her down, made it a war, and Silva kind of eventually broke a little bit. So that's something that we do have to go off of, and Javicius could potentially try to do the same thing. But Silva's a good grappler. She's a dangerous submission artist. Her wrestling isn't the best. She also will make some mistakes in the clinch, but she's strong. I've seen her hit some body locks. Sometimes I've seen her pull fighters on top of her, or go for head and arm throws and give her back. But overall, she has decent clinch takedowns, and when she gets on top, she has good rear naked choke. She transitions well. Her top control isn't the greatest. She is submission over position, but on her back, she's dangerous. She will go for arm bars, triangles. Most of her wins are subs. I haven't really seen her fight a strong wrestler, though, that tried to hold her down, ground and pound her. Her fight with Marina Rodriguez did have some control on top and some ground and pound effective control time, but that was after Silva really gassed out badly, and she was like 20 years old in that fight. So I was impressed with the progression and the improvement I saw from the first fight I saw Silva's to the most recent one. And I'm going to go with the upside of Natalia Silva here, pick her to win. She has a big speed advantage. She has the striking advantage, in my opinion. I think she could stick and move, use her kicks, use the hard punching combos to land, and make Jasmine not want to be in the pocket. I think she'll come in stronger. She's a bit older now. Maybe she'll have an improved clinch game, improved takedowns. I don't really know the BJJ level of Silva, but if she's able to get the better of the grappling against Jasmine, then I think she's going to win the fight easily. And yeah, so I'm going to go with Natalia Silva here to get the victory. And this next fight, this is a really good fight right here. We got Jeremiah Wells taking on Court McGee. And Jeremiah Wells, he's looking to make it 3-0 in the octagon for himself on Saturday night, keep the undefeated record for Renzo Gracie Philly going. And yeah, this is a tough test, though, man, with Court McGee. Court McGee's a guy that's been in the UFC for almost 15 years now. He looked dead in the water in October of 2020 when he lost to Carlos Condit. It was his 5th loss in 6 appearances, and there was definitely a possibility he was going to get cut after that for sure, but UFC kept him around, and McGee has rewarded him. He's gotten back-to-back dominant victories and quite literally crushed his last 2 opponents. You This fight with Jeremiah Wells is kind of a fight to see, is Court McGee going to be able to have another run in him, or is he just totally done? Is Jeremiah Wells going to be a guy that could potentially challenge against top 15 guys, or is he not quite there? So it's a good test for both fighters, and I think it's a very close and fair matchup. Some people may view Wells as a big favorite, but I don't really think so. He's not a spring chicken. He's 35 years old, and he's a bit smaller than McGee. He hasn't fought very many quality opponents. This is a big step up for him. Wells did fight a similar style as well to Court McGee, and a pressure fighter who's kind of, real steady, has decent grappling with Vinicius de Jesus, and he actually lost that fight. But Wells, so far in the UFC has looked dominant. He's looked super explosive, and early in fights, he's super dangerous. He's very fast. He moves a lot, tries to get fighters to chase him, and then he comes over the top with the overhands, and he has really good 3-2s. He has finishing ability. He's super explosive. He'll have those explosive blitzes where he literally runs his opponent across the cage, and decent high kicks, front kicks up the middle. He does slow down though. His cardio is definitely questionable after that first round. Starts to move way less. He's not as fast as his blitzes. You watch the fight with De Jesus, when he couldn't get the takedowns, you saw long-term his striking wasn't really effective. Sure, Wells can close the distance and land one of those kill shots, and he does possess power, but leaves his chin right in the air. When fighters start to get a beat on what he's doing, they can start to counter. And if you could walk Wells down once you stuff a couple of takedowns, he starts to become low volume. And in the pocket, he's not very effective. His hands aren't very good. He just relies on his athleticism to either land that kill shot or be able to get it to the ground. And he's a really good grappler, very physical. He, just like Sean Brady and Petrosky, he's really good in the clinch, great double leg, good body locks. And on top, he has heavy ground and pound, really good rear naked chokes. But Wells isn't the greatest wrestler in the world. He gets a lot of his takedowns due to his explosiveness, his strength. And as this fight goes on, I think that Court McGee might start to get the better of the grappling. Court McGee, we did see him fight Sean Brady and give Sean Brady hell. So, that's the main training partner for Wells. And McGee wasn't an easy guy to take down and hold down for Sean Brady, who I think is the higher level of the two guys here. But Court McGee, the guy's a beast. He's a guy that has been able to maintain his job in the UFC a long time, and it's solely due off of his cardio and grit. He isn't an elite athlete. He is sneaky strong. He's durable, and he has insane pressure and cardio. He keeps fighters on the back foot, and that's how he gets wins. He cuts a cage off really well. He could box you up. He could wrestle. He has a good jab. He has pretty good counters. His chin is really good. And on the inside, he puts punches and bunches together. He throws good combos. He'll throw front kicks, round kicks to the body. He is getting a little bit slower and more hittable. He did get floored with the check hook against Sean Brady. He got rocked a couple other times with check hooks. And he's going to have to pressure, but be aware of the big explosions from Wells. Early, he's going to have to be very alert and very on point to not get hit with a big knockout shot. But he's only been finished one time in 31 fights. He's shown an iron chin, and it's going to be hard to get him out of there. And Court McGee kind of abandoned his wrestling for a long period of time in his career, but he's brought it back in his last two fights, and he's absolutely dominated with his wrestling. He's gotten 8 takedowns, ton of control time, great ground and pounds. And I don't know if that's going to be his game plan against a fellow black belt and physical beast, but if he can use his clinch game to wear on Wells, get him tired, put him on his back, that's somewhere where I haven't really seen Wells. Sometimes when grapplers get taken down, especially if they have cardio issues, it can go downhill for them quickly. So I think long term, if this fight can get midway through the second or third round, then McGee can start to implement his grappling. He will look like a very good chance or a very big favorite, but I'm going to pick Court McGee here. This is a fight where I think McGee is being underestimated a bit. He's fighting a fighter with height because they're undefeated in the UFC, but I think Wells' last fight was a freebie win. Fight against Warley Alves, that finish was a little bit fluky. McGee could get caught with something big on the feet and knocked out early here, but if he doesn't, I think his pressure, his cardio, throwing more volume, the clinch work is going to rue the day. He's a veteran. He's fought animals during his career. Wells has not really fought many fighters that are too good, and he has to deal with the confident McGee coming in here off 2 wins. I think McGee's going to get Wells tired and, get the decision in typical Court McGee fashion. And moving along through the card, we got Adrian Yanez taking on Tony Kelly. And Adrian Yanez is going to be the fan favorite in almost every fight. He's going to participate in the UFC. but maybe even more so in this fight. Obviously, Tony Kelly recently got in hot water for those comments about Brazilians, and I've seen guys like Gilbert Burns saying they're going to give Adrian Yanez extra money for knocking out Tony Kelly. So it's definitely brought some heat to the fight, but Yanez, he also ripped Kelly a little bit. And aside from all that, Yanez is someone who plays a social media game really well. And he's done a great job in the cage and enhancing his brawn outside the cage. So he's only been in the UFC for a short period of time, but I would say he's probably one of the more recognizable names at bantamweight. And he's 4-0. He has 3 knockouts. His last fight, he got that real close decision win over Davey Grant. And this is going to be another fun fight here with Tony Kelly. They're moving him up a little bit slow, but he has 8 wins in a row. He's not lost in almost 4 years. And now he's going to have to take out a guy on a 2-fight winning streak in the UFC. Tony Kelly is an underrated fighter in bantamweight. His last fight against Randy Costa, he won as an underdog. It was probably the biggest win of his career. And, a lot of people saw Costa as another guy that could maybe be a future contender. He had a great fight with Adrian Yanez, and Tony Kelly was able to beat him much more cleaner than Yanez did. Kelly also won his UFC fight before that, and his one UFC loss did come at 145 pounds on short notice, so he is undefeated at 135. He had never fought at 135 before he dropped down to fight Ali Al-Qazi, and so he probably is very confident in this division, feeling like the bigger guy. But in this fight, he's going to be pretty similar size to Adrian Yanez, but beating Adrian Yanez, he knows, that's going to skyrocket him up the rankings. So I'm sure he's had a great camp and really pulled out all the stops here. But Kelly on the feet, he's aggressive. He switches stances. He has a pretty good jab. And, he on the outside doesn't really offer very much, though. He's fast. He can close the distance with straight punches. He likes to do that and then attack on the inside. His kicks aren't really effective from what I've seen, but on the inside he is. He has good body shots, good elbows. He has good knees. He can throw combinations in there. He is hittable, and I do think the body shots of Adrian Yanez could really give Kelly issues, and Kelly does sometimes leave a lot to be desired trying to close the distance, but he's tough. He's a dog. He's hard to get out of there. He's going to try to push the pace and break fighters like he did Randy Costa. And, he's a good grappler. That's going to be what he wants to try to do here, in my opinion. The issue is his wrestling is not really there. He is dangerous in the clinch with knees, but I've seen him controlling the clinch himself. And if he can get it to the ground, I think that he does have good submissions. He has a couple of ground and pound victories. He has pretty good cardio. Never been finished. So he has some good things about him, but unless he can get it to the ground, I think this is Yanez's fight to lose. Yanez on the feet is going to be able to get a guy that's going to be coming right at him, be very easy to hit, and he's going to be able to counter. I think that he's going to be way too fast for Kelly. I think the body shots are really going to give him a lot of issues. And Yanez, even though his defense isn't the greatest either, with this fight, I don't think he's going to really have to deal with someone that has crazy knockout power or a big threat to finish him like Costa did. And I don't think that Kelly's going to take him down either. So ultimately, I think Yanez is just going to be a little bit too fast, too sharp, land nice counters, land some body shots. And even though Kelly's never been finished, I wouldn't be surprised if Yanez was the first guy to get him out of there. And this next fight, this is a fight that I'm not really a big fan of. I think it should be really fun to watch. I'm a fan of the way Julian Marquez fights in the cage. But betting-wise, just making a prediction, I mean, I don't really have a real confident side, and Gregory Rodriguez is a big favorite. I mean, I don't necessarily agree with that, but picking Julian Marquez is hard with all the flaws that he has. I mean, basically, we got a guy in Julian Marquez that's just super rough, rugged. It doesn't look like he's getting a little bit more technical with his striking. His last fight, he was throwing a little bit sharper with his boxing, but mainly just relies on his chin, his durability to get inside, make a fight a war, and either get you tired and then take you out with a big shot, or just get you in an exchange, land that big kill shot and get you out of there. But very hittable, plotty, doesn't really, cut the cage off very well, can get out volumed. He can be taken down super easily, and that's been mainly his kryptonite. His takedown defense is virtually non-existent. And when people look at this fight with Gregory Rodriguez, they think, this guy is going to have the reach advantage on Marquez. He's going to be able to, pick him apart on the outside, land the crosses, the straights, the front kicks, and then time a couple takedowns, use jiu-jitsu to maybe control, take the back. But the thing about Gregory Rodriguez and why I don't trust him in this fight is he, in terms of his jiu-jitsu and his ground game, I don't necessarily think that he has the highest level control on top, and he doesn't like to go back to his wrestling that much because I don't think he has faith in his cardio in that type of fight. So if fighters can get up back to their feet after he takes him down a couple times, he'll settle into the striking fight. We saw that most notably in his last loss against Armen Petrosyan, where he had a huge advantage if he just kept getting takedowns and he didn't do it. But yeah, I mean, I think that Rodriguez obviously is the better striker technically and the better wrestler and grappler. So he's better everywhere. It's just he has a tendency on the feet that he can get hurt and he can brawl. And if he starts to, brawl with Marquez, his chin is too questionable for me to be that confident. I would be very remiss if I said I wasn't nervous that it ended up like the Jordan Williams fight. But man, it's hard to pick Marquez, honestly, because of the fact that I think he has so many flaws technically. But I'm actually going to go with Julian Marquez to get a second round KO TKO in this one. I'm going to pick him to get the job done, and I'm not really confident on either person in this fight, though, at all. And this is a sneaky good fight right here. Both these guys not being ranked is pretty crazy in the lightweight division. I mean, with Guram Kudateladze, it's a little bit more, makes a little bit more sense. I mean, he hasn't fought in quite a while, and he only has that one UFC fight. But Damir Ismagulov, he's 4-0 in the UFC. He's won all his fights with a relative ease. I think if he didn't miss weight for his last fight, he probably would be ranked and be getting a better opponent. But he blew the weight cut for his last one, so they're giving him a tough guy that's outside of the rankings in Guram Kudateladze. And, but yeah, I mean, Ismagulov, he's beaten Joel Alvarez. He's beaten Thiago Moises, Rafael Alves. He's beaten some good opponents. He hasn't fought very much, which is another issue for him. He got signed in late 2018. Had 3 fights within a year, went 3-0. But then he took 21 months off. He returned in May of 2021. And now he's taking over a year off once again. So hopefully he can string some fights together if he can win on Saturday. And, Guram Kudateladze, though, he has been plagued by layoffs as well. He entered the UFC as a big underdog. He was super underlooked because he was facing at the time, undefeated 2-division KSW champion in Mateus Gamrot. And Kudateladze had an amazing performance. He was able to pick up the split decision win, gave Gamrot his first loss. And the issue for Guram is it's been over a year since that fight, so he wasn't really able to capitalize on it. But if he can beat Ismagulov, he's going to be in a very good position. Damir Ismagulov, in terms of the fighter, very technical. He has really good footwork, movement. He has great stand-up to go with his high-level grappling. He's very fast. He's long, rangy, good 1-2s, good job of feigning his way into the straight or overhand right. He has a real nice check left hook. He does a good job countering with the overhands. He has really nice hooks to the body. He will throw a lot of spinning attacks, and he's effective with that. He is a guy that struggles with an opponent's pressure and throw combinations. Defense is a little bit loose. He can start to brawl. We saw him get dropped against Rafael Alves. I saw Thiago Moises get off some combos against him, but Ismagulov is fast. He has good in and out movement, counters. He is difficult to pressure because you always have to be careful he's going to not take you down. And he throws a lot of volume. So he's willing to get hit, stay in the pocket, return fire. And, that's something that some guys just can't keep up with the volume of Ismagulov, and they end up kind of wilting. And he has solid offensive wrestling, great timing on his level changes. He has really good control, ground and pound when he gets on top. Defensive wrestling is super high level, great switches, great job creating scrambles, super hard to control, great cardio. He pushes the pace. He is on an 18-fight win streak. He hasn't lost in almost 7 years. So Damir is just on a roll right now. And he's facing Guram Kudateladze, who's a good striker, athletic, solid footwork, movement. He switches stances, big for the weight class. He has nice calf kicks, good round kicks. His kicks overall are his best weapons. Front kicks at the middle, spin kicks. He also throws some nice knees. His hands aren't the best, but he has decent counter-punching ability. He has fast hands. I've seen him pressure fighters, and, but he struggles when guys can stay in the inside with him and be in boxing range. He is a little bit easy to be countered, and his striking even though he's more of a counter fighter, he is more effective on the outside throwing kicks and then counter punching like 1-2 shots at a time, not being forced to stay in that close range. To beat Guram, you're going to have to feint pressure, try to get him to open up so you can counter the counter, get in more exchanges. If you can get him to sit down and exchange, that could open up the takedown. And most of Guram's victories are knockouts. He's never been finished by strikes, so he's a guy that's durable, and he can put your lights out. So you have to be careful about the counter punches, and you have to know when you have him hurt, he's going to be hard to get out of there. He's also a very good grappler. He has great scrambling ability. His takedown defense looked extremely improved in the fight with Gamrot. He was able to deal with one of the best wrestlers in the division. He was taken out a couple times, but he was able to get back up to his feet. He has a pretty good submission game off his back. He uses those subs to create scrambles to stand back up. I haven't really seen him wrestle offensively. I haven't seen much of his top game, but he has excellent cardio. He has great will to win. He trains at a good camp. He's going to come in prepared with a good game plan, and this is going to be the first fight of his career in the United States. So we're going to have to see how that affects him, and obviously the layoff. And, I think that I'm just going to go with Damir because he's a little bit faster, more active, a little bit better on the feet. He has the reach. He has the speed advantage. I see being able to control distance, land the better strikes in a competitive fight here. So give me Damir Ismagulov to pick up another decision win. And another middleweight fight on this card with Joaquin Buckley taking on Albert Duraev. And this fight, it's kind of hard for me to make a real confident prediction because I haven't seen too much of Buckley against wrestlers. And the one fight that I really did see him fight a wrestler was Logan Storley. And he just got absolutely dominated in that fight, had nothing for the takedowns. And on his back, he looked bad. That's the issue that I had because when he got taken down, flat on the mat, he had no hip movement. He was allowing Storley to pass his guard very easily, passing him out. And Logan Storley, if you know who he is, he's an elite wrestler. So I think he probably has better wrestling and definitely has a better gas take than Albert Duraev. And he was able to just grind out Buckley, take him down. And he didn't really have to take him down multiple times in the round. He would just take him down once and hold him down and control him. But he didn't have the big threat, even when he got in dominant positions with his ground and pound or with his submissions to finish the fight. So just kind of grinded Buckley out. And, Albert Duraev, if he gets on top, he's going to have, much more activity with his ground and pound, looking for submissions, trying to get you out of there. He's super aggressive when he gets on top. So it's going to be different for Buckley. He's going to have more chances to get back up to his feet, but also he's going to have more potential to be finished. But the reason why Buckley is definitely a live underdog in the fight is because on the feet, he's going to have a big advantage. He's going to have a big speed advantage, power advantage, and he's going to be, looking for that explosive kill shot. And with Albert Duraev, we've seen, his cardio really fail him before. He's gotten very tired, gets very sloppy, hittable, and his chin has also failed him. He's been knocked out in all three of his losses. He got dropped in his UFC debut. So Buckley is a live underdog in this one, but just from that Storley fight, what I saw from him off his back, his takedown defense, I can't pick him here. I got to go with Duraev, and I'm going to say Duraev actually is able to get a finish on the ground in the first round, but this is a fight that, once again, Buckley, that fight was a while ago. He is a great athlete. If he's been working on his wrestling, his get-ups, his takedown defense, and he can get Duraev tired, then yeah, he could land a flying knee, he could land an uppercut, he could land a big overhand and, put Duraev's lights out. So it's a good fight, but I'm going to go with the wrestler with Albert Duraev, and I'm going to say that he's able to exploit the bad defense of Buckley on the ground and get him out of there in the first round. And this fight, I love this fight here. We got Tim Means taking on Kevin Holland. Two action fighters. I'm glad how the UFC has matchmade Kevin Holland in his first two welterweight fights. They're giving him, name veterans where he could sink or swim, but they're not necessarily wrestlers. They're not elite prime talent, and they're guys that go to war. So his last fight, he fought Alex Cowboy, and he struggled in round one, but he was able to get Cowboy out of there in the second round, snapped the 2-fight losing streak for himself in the 1-0 contest with Daukaus. And make no mistake though, just like Cowboy gave Oliveira gave Kevin Holland some problems. Tim Means is going to do the same thing. Kevin Holland's a guy that did well at 185. This is now his second fight at 170, and we're going to see how he fares at this weight. But Tim Means has won 3 fights in a row. Even at 38 years old, he's still looking good. I mean, if you look at Means' last 4 losses, he had 2 questionable split decisions. He could have easily won. And then he has finished losses against Deco Price and Daniel Rodriguez, but he was able to get be dominant in both those fights prior to the tides getting turned and him getting finished. So there's really no fighter you can name in recent memory that just ran over Tim Means and had an easy fight. Kevin Holland knows that, and I'm sure he doesn't underestimate a guy like Tim Means. Tim Means, super technical, man. Very skilled guy. He's a beast. He's has some of the best boxing in the welterweight division. He likes to pressure forward, throw the nasty jabs, 1-2s, pull 2s, rips the body super well. He puts long combos together, throws a lot of volume. Counterpunching ability is top notch. He has good head movement, parrying ability, hand fighting. And the pocket Means is a bad boy. I mean, he has great elbows, very crafty. He isn't the fastest fighter in the world. Sometimes guys can land clean on him as he's trying to slip punches. He does roll with shots well, but he's been getting hurt a bit more in recent fights. So I think he definitely should try to mix in the wrestling here. Means isn't a big kicker, but we have seen him throw some front kicks, leg kicks, high kicks. He drops Duropoli with the high kick. And Means is super durable, man. I mean, throughout his career, 44 fights, he's only been finished by strikes 1 time. That came against Nico Price, who we all know has freaking nuclear in his hands. And he has another TKO loss due to an injury, but that was in 2004. He has been hurt in a couple of his UFC fights and then shot in on bad takedowns and got guillotined. We saw that against Matt Brown and Daniel Rodriguez. So, Means also lost via guillotine in 2010 outside the UFC. So that's something you have to think about, when you get him hurt, to try to maybe snatch up that neck when he shoots in on you. Tim Means is an underrated wrestler, though, and I think he needs to rely on that here. He does a great job punching his way into the body lock. His doubles gets the cage are good. His clinch takedowns are good. He is a wrestling coach at a high school, so he's engulfed himself in the sport and probably is going to continue to improve. On top, he has pretty good ground and pound. His top control isn't the greatest. He sometimes, like I said, could shoot in and get guillotined or put himself in a bad position as well. And he has been submitted 5 times. But he has great cardio. He's willing to go to war. He's a blood and guts fighter. And anytime Tim Means fights, I'm going to be watching. And, he has a path to victory against Kevin Holland because he's going to be pressuring. He's going to be trying to take away that length from Kevin Holland. And Kevin Holland's a guy that he's not that technical of a striker. He's just very weird. And he's able to kind of, land these shots from weird angles, get you out of there. He throws, real nice straight shots. He's super long. And, when he lands that straight right, straight left, he can switch stances. He can put you out. He has some big power. He gets a lot of, torque on those shots due to his reach and length. He has a pretty good check hook, which I am a little bit worried about that check hook touching Tim Means behind the head and knocking him out because we have seen Tim Means get hurt with check hooks before. And, he just throws really long. He'll lunge in with a lot of punches. He's very fast, and he is going to have the speed advantage. He has good kicks as well. He'll attack oblique kicks. He'll attack nice leg kicks, front kicks, hook kicks, high kicks. I mean, he has a lot of different kicks that he'll go to. And, defensively, though, I mean, if you pressure him, he doesn't really throw combos. He likes to throw those 1 strikes at a time. So if you could slip that first shot or take that first shot, get inside, you could land combos on him. He pulls back with his chin high. He's pretty good in the clinch. Like, he has nice knees and elbows, but you could also control him in the clinch, land your own knees, land your own elbows. And Kevin Holland is super durable. He has never been finished by strikes, and you've seen him take some big shots, gets 85ers. So, the guy has a great chin, but, he kind of does get hit quite a bit. And when he gets hit, he can get emotional. He can walk forward with his hands down. And he's definitely at his best when he's feigning, when he uses the leg kicks, and when he's setting up his punches. He is a good grappler, obviously. Like, he has good jiu-jitsu. And I don't necessarily think Tim Means is going to want to just hang out in his full guard or anything like that. But, obviously we've seen the kryptonite with Holland is taking him down, getting him tired, controlling him on top, and winning the decision against him. He hasn't really had a fight where someone's outstruck him or anything like that, but he has had fights where guys have been able to mix it up, take him down, and submit him or control him on the ground. And it's just hard to trust Kevin Holland overall, because it's just like all of his wins in the UFC are low-level wins for the most part. I mean, he's beaten some high-level guys on the way out, like Jacare when he was on the way out, Alex Cowboy. But, he doesn't really have any high-level wins. And he just has iffy performances sometimes as well. Like, he'll go in there and go to split decision with Alessio Di Chirico, with Gerald Mearshart, with guys like that, Darren Stewart, that he's way better than those guys. He just has bad performances. So, in terms of Tim Means, I think you know what you're going to get from him. He's very sturdy, very consistent fighter. And, that's something you can say about him that you can't say about Kevin Holland. Another thing is I think that Means is going to be throwing way more volume, being more active, pressuring. And, his style is tough for Holland because Holland wants to keep that distance so he could kick and land those long punches. Means is in his face the whole time. He's going to have to change up his game a little bit. And I feel like Means is going to be winning this fight until he loses. If he does lose, it's going to be like Means controlling the distance, backing him up, clinching him up, maybe getting a takedown or two, winning the boxing, landing some elbows, knees. And then Holland all of a sudden lands a sniper right hand, drops him, gets him in a guillotine and submits him or something like that. So, I mean, I think that, it's one of those fights. It's like, are you going to go with Tim Means to be able to make it to the decision, not get caught and finished by the opportunistic finisher like Kevin Holland? Or are you going to go with the young, opportunistic finisher guy that, could maybe take out the old veteran? If this was like a couple years ago, I would, pick Tim Means, no hesitation. Now I'm more nervous because obviously he's a little bit older, he's a little bit slower, and maybe Holland could just touch that chin, rock him, and catch him in a guillotine or something. But I'm actually going to go with Tim Means just because I know what I'm going to get out of Tim Means. I know that he's going to pressure, be active, have Kevin Holland's face, make it hard for him to use his long-range attacks, use combinations, not one shot at a time like Holland does. I think in the clinch, Means has a lot of height, and he's very crafty there as well, so he can hold his own and probably do better than Holland in the clinch and maybe even mix in some takedowns. So Holland might finish him along the way, and I wouldn't be surprised either way, but I'm going to go with Tim Means by decision. And in the co-main event here, we got a fight between two legends. This fight was supposed to happen a few weeks ago at UFC 274, and I actually did a breakdown for this fight, so I'm not going to, give a full, 100% in-depth breakdown, because anyways, I mean, to be able to have a side on this fight is pretty hard anyways. I don't know how you can be super confident in either guy. Obviously, both these guys are action fighters. They're some of the best fighters in UFC history in terms of bonuses, in terms of finishes, and it's going to be a badass fight. I mean, we got Joe Lauzon. He is the guy that's coming off the more recent win, but he hasn't fought in over 2 years. And even though he did come back, had that great performance in Boston against Jonathan Pierce, he had 3 fights prior to that were really bad performances, like where he got beat up and was forced to retire on the stool against Chris Grutzmacher. He made Chris Grutzmacher look like a future world champion. He got knocked out by Clay Guida in the first round with punches. Clay Guida doesn't really hit very hard, man. So obviously Joe Lauzon has had a lot of things where, he basically has became a first rounder bust fighter. He goes out there and he could either finish you in the first round with a knockout with his boxing, or get you to the ground and get a submission, which he hasn't gotten a submission in over a decade, but he goes out there and tries to finish you really early, or he gasses out and becomes ineffective in the second and third rounds. And Donald Cerrone, I mean, he's kind of the opposite. He's had really slow starts, so obviously Joe Lauzon's going to try to go jump on him in the beginning of the fight, get him out of there, and that's Joe Lauzon's path to victory. And then, also with Cowboy, we just don't really know what he has left in the tank. Like, let's say he does survive the early onslaught from Lauzon. Is he going to look like anything like vintage Cowboy, or what is it going to be like? I mean, we did see him against Nico Price where he had a decent showing. Even though it was a draw, he would have lost with the point deduction. He was able to fight fairly well in that one. And even against Anthony Pettis, a lot of people felt like he won that fight as well. So I think he's still there a little bit. It's just, getting knocked out by Morono really quickly, taking a layoff, coming back to 55, struggling to make the weight the last time or whatever happened, why he had to pull out. Now coming back, having to cut weight again. There's certain things that I don't really like with the Cerrone side, but it's hard for me to pick Joe Lauzon just because the level of competition Lauzon has been fighting compared to Cerrone, and just I think that Cerrone is the better fighter everywhere. I think he has even probably better. I don't know if he has better jiu-jitsu, but his jiu-jitsu is really, really good as well. I think he can mitigate a lot of what Lauzon wants to do, and I think that he has the better wrestling, better striking. It's just, is he going to get caught and taken out early again, or is he going to be able to kind of dig those boots in and, show one more vintage cowboy performance? I think, the fight going under or the fight not going to decision is honestly the safer play than deciding to pick either a Joe Lauzon or Cerrone. I'm just going to go with Cerrone. I'm going to say he wins late first round knockout, but wouldn't be surprised if Lauzon takes him on the first round. I think this fight's going to get finished either way, and I'm just going to go with the Cowboy Cerrone side here. And then finally here we got the main event, and like I said at the beginning of the video, put down below in the comments what round you think the fight's going to end, who you think's going to win, and the exact time of the finish. And if you are the closest, you have the correct method and the correct round, then you will win a $25 bet courtesy of Westgate Sportsbook, or you will win, just a $25 prize sent to you. So whichever way you would like to receive it, just do that and put that down below in the comments, along with getting this video over 200 likes. So make sure to smash that like button right now if you haven't hit it yet. But the main event is Calvin Kattar and Josh Emmett. And, it's an interesting fight. We got Kattar, who's coming back off that win where after the Max Holloway loss, he had a lot of people that kind of wrote him off. He was a big underdog against Giga. Almost everyone was picking Giga Chikadze, betting Giga Chikadze, and Calvin shut everyone up. He went out there and he dominated the guy, beat the shit out of him. I mean, it was a dominant performance. He really was able to outbox him and show that he was a superior striker. And Giga didn't really have much for him, man. So Giga hung in really tough. He went all 5 rounds, but it was a showcase for Calvin Kattar. And now he's going to be looking to make it 2 in a row, get kind of back in that mix for another potential title shot and take out Josh Emmett, who's been kind of a dark horse in the UFC. He's had unfortunate circumstances where he's had to miss long periods of time due to injuries and things like that. He's 37 years old now, so a loss is going to kind of signify the end of his title run to me. So every fight is super important to him. He obviously just coming off a nice win over Dan Ige. It was a close fight. It could have went either way, but they gave the nod to Josh Emmett. But Calvin Kattar's a different animal, man. We saw Calvin Kattar against Ige, and Calvin Kattar lit him up like a Christmas tree. Calvin Kattar, I think, just has too much range here. His boxing is too good. Emmett likes to explode in with those big punches. And unless he finds that kill shot, which Calvin Kattar is notoriously durable, I don't see him being able to match the volume. I see Calvin being able to start sniping him from the outside with the long punches, walking him into big shots, elbows, potentially. See him chopping the legs. Attacking the legs is a smart thing to do against Josh Emmett, who's had multiple knee surgeries and things like that. And Emmett, he's not used to going 5 rounds. Calvin Kattar's gone 5 rounds multiple times. I think Kattar has better cardio. And I think Kattar wears damage better. So both these guys are super durable. Emmett has that one-hitter quitter knockout ability. But I think Calvin just has way better boxing. His durability is better. I think he's seen the upper echelon in the division more than Emmett. And I just think he's going to outclass him with the striking. I think he's going to knock him out in the later rounds. So give me Calvin Kattar by KO TKO in round 3, 4, 5. And I think he'll get it done, fairly easily. Emmett may have some moments, but I just think Kattar's going to be a little bit too good for him. I don't really see much of a takedown threat from Emmett holding him down, and I don't think he can compete on the feet long term. So unless he gets the knockout, I definitely think Kattar is going to come away with the victory. So there you have it. That's the full card breakdown and predictions for UFC Austin, UFC on ESPN. And for my play of the week, I'm going to go with a parlay of Gloria to Paula, Cody Stamann, and Adrian Yanez. My most confident pick of the week is going to be Cody Stamann. So thanks for watching, guys. And like always, if you want to have access to PFL video, some bets for the UFC, for PFL, for CES, for KSW, check out the Patreon this weekend. We are on a 7-event win streak. We're up over 60 units this year. So we've been killing it. And yeah, guys, thanks for watching. I'm going to be back next week, so be plugged into the channel. Subscribe if you're not subscribed. Let's get this video to 200 likes, and yeah, I love you guys. You guys are the shit.